Guys, let's talk about a sin that is killing the spiritual growth of contemporary men, and it's vanity. Now, what vanity is, in its essence, is when we use the wrong standard to try to measure the worth or the value of our persons. And what I want to do first is I want to give you some symptoms that will indicate whether or not this sin has taken root in your heart. First one is this: discontentment. The myth of vanity is that there's some inner circle, and if I could ever find my way to that inner circle, then I'd be content, then I'd be happy. And so take a guy at work who thinks, if I could just make $100,000 in a year, then my heart would be satisfied. And one day he makes $100,000 and he only discovers then that actually some people make $1 million. So now he needs to go make $1 million. And then there's the $10 million marker, and then there's the $100 million marker, and of course they're the billionaires. But the thing about vanity, this is the point, it's a ceaseless quest. Behind one door is always another. Once you get into a circle, you find out there's another inner circle, and it never stops. The second symptom of vanity is busyness. Guys who are vain end up being like jugglers who are trying to keep a dozen different plates in the air. The problem is this: you go into the workplace and there's a whole constellation of values that you're supposed to pursue if you're going to be successful in the workplace. And so if you're vain, you're trying to earn the approval of everybody at work, and then you get to church and you find out there's another set of values that are altogether different. And so now you've got to win those people's approval, and then you get to your neighborhood, and the neighborhood you live in has another set of expectations, and then you've got your parents, and it goes on and on and on. And so you're juggling all of these expectations, and of course, lost in the midst of the mass are the expectations of Jesus. Vain men typically are excessively busy men. A third symptom is shame. In the arena of vanity, there are ultimately only two types of people. There are winners and there are losers, which means you either end up being proud or filled with shame. And in most cases, guys who are vain end up feeling ashamed because very few people can ever meet any of the expectations set out by the modern world. And then the fourth symptom of vanity is spiritual immaturity. If you head out on the wrong road, you will end up at the wrong destination. And if you follow the road that the world gives you, it will not lead you to character development. It will not lead you to spiritual knowledge. It will not lead you to healthy Christian relationships. These are not the values of our world. And guys who are vain pursue other objectives than those that God gives us. Now, if these are the symptoms, guys, what is the root cause of vanity? And it's this. Ultimately, it's this: wrong audience, wrong criteria. Vanity begins when we look to the world instead of looking to God as our audience. And as soon as that audience shifts, then all of a sudden we begin to evaluate our person using the wrong criteria. So when vanity grips the heart, it's no longer holiness that we care about. It's no longer God that we live before, but rather we live in that oppressive gaze of society. And we seek the success, the acquisitions, the achievement, all of the stuff that modern American society values. Now that's the root cause, guys. What's the answer? And spiritually, the answer to vanity, it's humility. There's a whole lineage of spiritual writers who have made the same point and said, true humility, it's not a matter of thinking less of ourselves, but of thinking of ourselves less. And really, vanity at its root, it's a kind of narcissism. It's a self-obsession. And until we are detached and can think of something other than ourselves, we're always going to succumb to vanity and pride. And so the answer ultimately to vanity is being caught up and filled with an awareness of the holiness, the beauty, and the glory of God. And as we see Him and as our minds are more gripped by Him, what we care about is the stuff He cares about. And we find ourselves freed up from caring about the world. We don't have to meet its standards of approval. We can live with the freedom God has given us. We can delight in His love. We can pursue His objectives. And so, guys, if you want to free your heart from vanity, fill your heart with a captivated love of the glory of God.